One of the things that makes TF2 infinitely replayable is the extremely vast loadout system it has. With 169 unique weapons to choose and use, you can create a whopping 2,440 unique loadout combinations for all 9 classes. Alright, well, maybe not all loadouts are created with the same sense of synergy, but surprise surprise, some weapons were specifically designed to be shot and shared with. In the final episode of the Set Synergy series, we'll take a look at the 7 support class item sets and see how well each weapon works together, making balance changes that fit the overall theme and core design of the weapons, allowing them to mesh together just a little bit better.
Life in the old castle.
The Medieval Medic is by far one of the most unique item sets in the entire game. While most of them have some sort of gimmick attached to them, like how Soldier's airborne armament set focuses on rocket jumping, the Medieval Medic's entire gimmick and goal is to be good in medieval mode. Something it achieves by default, as the Crusader's crossbow is the only primary allowed without breaking the time-space continuum. Feel free to stand at the top of the castle walls, shooting friend and foe alike when needed. As mosh pit fights are extremely common the moment the castle gate opens, having a melee that heals people in a large radius is a lot better than praying your needle goes where you want it. This taunt heal works best in medieval mode when there are 0 alternatives for healing people. It's committal and a tad bit suicidal to use it, putting your entire life and faith on your teammates to defend you while you stand completely still and defenseless. An easy pick for any huntsman, sniper, flying demo knight, or spy, but it's the best you've got. Of course, the Amputator's 20% damage penalty plays a pivotal role in balancing it out in medieval mode. You can heal everyone, but can't kill anyone. Having the Crusader's crossbow, one of the few ranged weapons in medieval mode, makes you prioritize killing people from afar rather than up close, especially with the Crusader's reverse damage fall off. The Amputator has one last stat that screams gimmick loud and proud. On paper, the +3 to health regen isn't that bad. It's a small upgrade that reinforces the idea that the Amputator isn't made for combat, but survivability. It boosts medic's health HP regen from a minimum of 3 HP a second and a maximum of 6 over a 10-second period to a starting regen of 4 HP a second, a maximum of 9 over that same 10-second period. A noticeable boost. While active, however. In medieval mode, needing to have the Amputator out and about isn't that big of a deal. You can still efficiently heal people thanks to its taunt and reap all the benefits. But how about when playing any game mode filled with guns? The Crusader's crossbow still reigns supreme. Shockingly though, it's stronger now. Having the medigun now in use means healing people with the Crusader's crossbow somehow builds Uber up as well. And it's not like the other syringe guns are pulling their weight anytime soon. As for the Amputator though, it's absolute ass. Everything that stood out and made the Amputator good is now bad. Similar treatment the FDA gave to cocaine. The taunt, while risky before, is now a death sentence in casual mode. Soldiers and demos dropping in from the sky just to bomb you, snipers waiting to blow your head off, spies just being spies, and every other class being fortunate when they catch you through a flank. Another issue with the taunt is that massive glowing particle on everyone telling the enemy team that you're taunting. The taunt itself, although granting Uber, does so in extremely reduced rate compared to the medigun, making it redundant unless injured people are swarming you. Let's take another glance at that gimmick. Good god, that extra regen. For the untrained eye, the Amputator just seems to amplify a medic's health regen, giving him increased survivability, a unique weapon unlike any other. Except for all the mediguns. Yep, every single medigun. All mediguns also increase the amount of health medic regens while healing injured teammates. In fact, it doubles medic's health regen, starting at 6 HP a second and capping out at a whopping 12 HP a second. Completely blowing the Amputator's regen out of the water, land, and fucking air. And I'm no mathematician, I don't own an abacus or anything, but I think healing 2 people is a little bit better than healing just 1. That's not to say that the Amputator is completely useless though. It's just that the perfect time to use it is incredibly rare. For the taunt, it's always going to be a gamble, relying on how safe you are and how many injured teammates are near you. For the regen though, you'd have to be away from everyone else on your team alone for 10 whole seconds and not being chased and shot at by any enemies. So, how do we make it better? The set itself, despite being made for medieval mode, does share one key motif, and that's safety. We're dedicated to one cause and one cause only, and that's keeping Medic safe. At the workplace, you're expected to come across several dangerous and risk-averse substances that could put your life in danger. The first step is always prevention. Instead of diving directly into death, hang back and fire crossbow bolts from safety, healing and harming those without putting yourself at risk. If you do manage to get hit, however, you thankfully have the amputator there to get you back into tip-top shape faster. Rather than just buffing the amount of health you receive back when holding it, the new amputator now decreases the time it takes to reach full regen, from 10 seconds to 5 seconds. It makes it much more viable for survivability when a medic does get cut off from his team or retreating from enemies, giving him just enough health to typically get out. Why not make it a passive, though? I hear you say. To understand the problem with making a passive, let's take a quick look at the other weapons that give increased regen. The Conch and the Cozy Camper. Yes, other weapons do give health on hit or kill, but these free weapons are strictly the only ones that affect passive regen. And would you look at that? You can actually look at them. Both the Cozy Camper and Conch have visual indicators that the person you're fighting is regaining health. Something the amputator doesn't have unless you pull it out. One final touch to the amputator is buffing the taunt. Although a tad bit gimmicky, I do like the sacrifice of safety for the potential to heal several people at once. The problem comes in though with how limited the use really is. You don't gain as much uber unless you have a large crowd of injured people, and if there's a second medic around, it just isn't worth it at all. As of now, the amputator now gives overheal to people within the radius. Not much, mind you. The normal medigun works at 150% efficiency for classes, or half of the class's base health tapped on top as overheal. For heavy, 300 divided by 2 is 150, max overheal is 450. Overheal is being rounded down to the nearest multiple of 5, by the way, so for Pyro, although the correct number is 262.5, it comes out as 260. The amputator's overheal now would work at only 112% efficiency. For comparison, the quick fix works at 125%. So Scout, Spy, Engineer, and Sniper would have a maximum health of 140, 15 extra health. Medic would be rounded down to 165, also 15 extra overheal. Debo and Pyro would gain 195, 20 extra, and Heavy with 335, an easy 35 extra overheal. All this fucking medic math, man. Who do I look like? Fury Y? Blech. Most of this segment has been talking about how cracked the Crusaders is and just how awful the Amputator is. Hopefully to no one's surprise though. I know a lot of people do like using the Amputator as it does spice up gameplay a bit more than the Ubersaw or Solemn Vow does, but it just isn't as good of a weapon as people do make it out to be. Another rather unique item set, being the only one that doesn't require a cosmetic item to complete. How fast you heal someone, how fast you move, how fast you kick that guy's ass, and how fast you smoke grass. With the quick fix being the star of the show. Originally it was the sole medigun that could mirror Medic's movement speed with Scout before being changed in Meet Your Match. Nowadays, its main mobility is the ability to mirror a wide margin of mobility techs such as rocket jumping, tripping, detonator jumping, and thermal thrustering. The mirror jump allows you to stick close to your pocket in the thick of a fight, or to get to the front line fast. Speaking of fast, this thing heals and builds Uber quicker than me dodging alimony payments. The Uber build increase itself just isn't due to some 10% blue text though. because the quick fix has a negative 50% max overheal penalty. This results in classes never bypassing the 142.5% of the maximum health, allowing the quick fix to build Uber without any additional penalties, unlike the other mediguns who do gain reduced Uber when healing overhealed targets. For the TLDR, more overheal equals less Uber, quick fix has less overheal, meaning more Uber. Of course, that negative 50% less overheal is still a pretty massive penalty, especially when you consider that the overheal still decays at the same rate as any other medigun, meaning you only give half, but it takes double. A maximum overhealed player with the quick fix will return to full HP after 7.5 seconds compared to the default's 15. Speaking of, the quick fix's Uber, known as Mega Heal, massively boosts the health gain of the quick fix to a whopping 100 health a second while in combat, while also providing complete and total immunity to any negative speed effects such as air blast, knockback, or slowdown, emphasizing mobility and speed once again. One of the biggest problems the quick fix faces, however, is when it should be used. Mega Heal is inferior to Uber, Crits, and the Vaccinator for making offensive pushes and pocketing people, forcing it to be a defensive focused medigun, which goes against its whole mobility and mere blast jump design. At best, you'll be able to pop a Mega Heal when pushing back a push. Pushing back a push. The English language, ladies and gentlemen, fantabulous. Healing several teammates in rapid succession, keeping them in the fight for an emergency. Something that could have been prevented if they had more overheal, but it excels a lot more when there's another medic around to make the big defensive plays or offensive pushes while you support everyone else around the all-star duo. Taking another line of speed brings us straight to the Overdose, which is pretty good. Don't get me wrong, it's no Crusader's crossbow, but it is the next best thing. The damage penalty means practically nothing on the Overdose, equaling out to 1 damage less than stock, meaning you can reap the reward of racing to the max. Although you're forced to have the Overdose out to get the effects, the speed boost does a lot more than you expect. Backpedaling to safety, rushing to someone who's injured, or just reaching the front line faster. One of the biggest complaints I typically hear about the Overdose is, well, I'm not gonna hold on to full Uber for that long now, am I? Forgetting that the speed scales with your current Uber charge rate. It's not like you reach 100% Uber and then you get the buff. The quick fix and Overdose pair extremely well together, however. The quick fix's faster heal rate means you aren't as reliant on the Crusader's crossbow, allowing some wiggle room for the Overdose to shine. Combine that with the increased Uber rate and you'll find yourself zooming and zipping across the map with zest constantly, with the speed boost being a great escape option if you accidentally mirror blast jump a bit too far ahead. And then there's the Solemn Vow. It's there. Arguably one of the most boring weapons in the game, the Solemn Vow simply allows you to see enemies' health when hovering over them, at the cost of being slightly slower to cause a concussion with. Boring, basic, and bland, but admittedly not bad, especially in the context of a hypermobile drop team that can scout out who's weak in a fight, dive directly on top of them, and then jump out. I think it needs something more to make it pop out a bit, but it's still fine as a weapon. Overall, the clinical trial works pretty well, all things considered. The only issue is that I know for a fact that I'm operating at 60% efficiency when using it, and my corporate boss is going to fire me if I don't switch back to the medic meta. It does its job of being a fast pharmacist well, but not enough to rise above the rest. With the Overdose, there's very little one could directly do to the weapon to make it a more viable choice over the Crusader's crossbow. Even by making the speed boost effect passive, it still isn't enough to give up burst healing from any distance up. The syringe guns as a whole need to be reworked and made more viable to compete with the Crusaders in its current form. The quick fix, though, has a lot good going on with it, and it sadly is just a victim of being too niche. If there's one change I would make to it though, boosting its usage just a tad bit, it would be the removal of increased Uber drain when switching heal targets. The main appeal of Mega Heal is to Mega Heal. rapidly healing everybody from near death back to full nearly instantly. The only issue comes with how limited you are with your healing. Does the quick fix want to heal one person or everyone? It doesn't know. Both the quick fix and stock have a standard uber duration of 8 seconds, but that duration nearly gets cut in half every time you split it with someone else. Getting rid of that penalty with the quick fix and keeping it a solid 8 seconds seems more than fair. And then there's the solemn vow. You keep doing it. Solemn vow. You got it. This is part 1 of the support set synergy series. Originally I was planning to have every single support class set placed here, but then realized the video would be nearly an hour long. As a result, I plan to make the series a series, dividing the final episode into separate parts per class, so stay tuned in the far future for the sniper item set episode, where we'll go over the balancing and impact of the items in the Croco style kit set, the Lawrence of Australia, and the Urban Professional. For now, I bid you farewell and adieu. Feel free to comment down below your own balance changes or opinions regarding mine. Are these sets in serious need of saving, or are they fine as is? Till next time.